Hi everyone, welcome back. So I think everyone remembers these postcards that I've been working on. I've been doing a lot of them lately, and my goal is to make a whole series of postcards so I can grab one and send it with a swap or send a note to someone or just a hello. So I want to add a few more postcards to my collection. I've got the blanks here, so they're pretty easy to do. So I'm going to start doing my Halloween themed postcards by gluing on some of this tissue paper. This is a dupe that I did myself, and it's supposed to replace the Tim Holtz roll. I made mine exactly 6 yards long and just a little over 6 inches wide because that's the measurements of his 6 inches by 6 yards. And I made mine for about $1.75, and his are almost $18. So I saved a lot of money there. So I'm going to start by gluing the tissue paper on because it is the simplest background start that I have. So for this one here, I'm using gesso. Now, gesso works as a glue and it keeps everything matte. You don't have to use gesso. So for this collection of I was going to say Valentine's, but Halloween postcards, I'm going to do a couple in gesso and then I'm going to do a couple with Mod Podge just to show you that there are lots of different things that you can use. You could also just take white school glue if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of supplies. Take that white school glue. I usually use the LePage's just white glue and water it down just a little bit, thin it so that it's easier to brush out and it'll work more like your Mod Podge does. So I'm going to let these next three that I do dry a little bit before I cut the outside edges off. Because when I did the first one, I trimmed it right away. It was still wet, but it lifts the corners and edges a little bit because it's not dry yet. And then you have to go back around your edges and re-glue. You saw me do that on the first one. It was just a little thing, so let them dry for a few minutes before you trim off the edges with your scissors. It'll kind of save you a step. So you can see here, I'm using the Mod Podge and it's really easy. This tissue paper, guys, it's really, really easy to work with. And you get a lot of coverage on your backgrounds. So it doesn't matter to me that all of this print on the tissue paper isn't going to show after I do my next step. That's okay. That's absolutely okay. This is just the first layer of my background. So I have a little tray here. I've already gone through my Spooky Personas Ephemera book. This is from Mary Me's Small Art. And I sat in front of the TV last night and cut a whole bunch of images out just to save me a little bit of time. So now I am going to grab this. This is from the Autumn Stories, and it's the ephemera book by Mary Me's Small Art as well. And I am tearing this page up. I mean, it might seem like a waste of a perfectly good background page to you, but for me, it's going to give me a whole pile of colors in the theme that I want. I want this to be Halloween, and these fall colors are perfect. And there were a lot of colors on this page. So I'm going to take all these little pieces now. I just want some color. I don't want any type of a picture or a design or pattern, nothing like that on this background. I just want little splashes of these fall colors. So I've got the grays, the turquoise, the faded turquoise and green, and the oranges, and I'm just adding a little bit of color. I'm going to put my focal point on here now. So I have this little girl walking, and she's dressed for Halloween, and this pumpkin floral arrangement. So I'm going to work on the rest of the background later after it dries. But everything's on there and it can dry, and then I'm going to have a whole card to work on. So these ones are dry enough. Let's trim off the outside edge, of course. You have to do that to everything before you start the next step because you really need to see what you have to work on. So I'm going to do all three of these at the same time, just grabbing pieces of this background color and adding until I'm happy with all three of these postcards. Very much the same as what I did on that first one. So layers, this is what you want. You want layers. So I have the tissue paper, just the black and white in the background. And then adding little bits of color on top is my second layer. And every time you add another layer or another element to a background, it pushes what was already there back and makes it look like it's further in the distance. So when you put your image on the front that you want to be your focal image, it'll pop on the page and everything else will fade into the background but still be beautiful. So once again, trim off all of your scraps that are hanging over the edges because you want to know what you have to work with. I like having nice clean edges before I start my next step every single time. Now, I'm going to put the focal image on the others. I don't know what I'm putting on yet. So I've got this little tray, like I said. It's all pieces that are already cut out, and I'm loving having this because now I can go through. I'm just right now at this point checking to see which ones fit the best. I have a little handful of items I can choose from because they all fit, and now I can decide where they go. I really had fun making these guys. Yeah, I just really enjoyed mixing and matching these little images for the fronts of these postcards. So I was looking for the perfect pumpkin here to go with this girl who is swinging on that little bit of a moon. And I have this girl, and she's on a full moon. What's she going to be doing? She's going to be talking to somebody or something. I wasn't sure at that point what. So I have this one that's sitting on this little ledge. So I kind of had a theme here. I wanted a spooky persona. I wanted one of the little people, and I wanted some sort of pumpkin image in each one. So it didn't matter to me what type of costume they had. I'm just kind of playing because I want that Halloween theme. I just wanted it to be cute. For me, it's all about being cute. I love these crows. I cut a bunch of pumpkins, a bunch of crows, all these little people, all these moons. Just so pretty. So I have some pumpkins and moons for this one, and I'm going to put them on here. So I started off with my gesso and placing my main person, and using gesso there's a bonus to using gesso. So it doesn't dry really fast and it doesn't really glue down until it's dry. It's not really tacky like any of the adhesives until it's starting to dry. So I put my little person down. I can lift her up then, slide the moon in behind her. I can put pumpkins in front or behind her. There's wiggle room with this. Now, I never used gesso as an adhesive until just recently. I wasn't even sure if I could do it. But once it's dry, guys, they're on there for good. They're not moving. So I have this girl on the moon, and I knew I wanted her to be talking to somebody. So I've got this big plant type of thing that I put in behind so I can set this crow down. So she's going to be having a conversation with this crow. And I thought, why not? It's Halloween. You can pretty much do anything you want to for Halloween. That's why I love it so much. So I'm setting things up to dry as I do them. So I've got this girl. I'm going to put her down. Oh, I'm going to put my pumpkin down first. I think I realized at this point that I wanted her to be in front of the pumpkin. Sometimes when you're putting your pieces down, you're not sure. So yeah, it's really good to be able to lift and slide things underneath. But yeah, she's sitting on the moon. Her feet are just dangling over that pumpkin. I'm going back over the ones I've already got and trying to decide what I want here. So I have this moon, and I have a moon. I kind of have a moon in all the other images. I don't have one in here, so I thought I'm going to put this one half on, so it's just kind of dangling down from the top of the card. That way I could trim it off very carefully, put the other half of the moon back in my little bin, and keep it for something else. So now I have a little persona, I have a moon, and I have pumpkins in every card. And those are my images. Now, I came back after everything was dry, and this is a white metallic acrylic paint. It's just called white metallic, and it dries translucent. And I'm painting it over all of my background, not my focal images, but all of my background. But I even went over the girl that's sitting on the moon. She had some stuff dripping down from the bottom of the moon, and I wanted to change that just a little bit. So I painted over that as well. So what I'm doing with all the cards, I'm going to do the same thing on all of them, is I'm pushing the background back another layer by painting over top of it. But there's something really cool about this metallic paint that I love, in that when it dries and you hold it up to the light, do you remember those little toys we used to get and you turned them and the image changed back and forth? Well, the background shows differently every time you turn it in the light. You can see the whole background in some directions. In others, you can't see it at all. And in some directions, you can just see the colors. So I absolutely loved that. So I did the same thing to all three. I went back and added just a few teeny tiny little finishing touches. The bottom of this moon, I wanted to put drippy paint. So I'm using this, it's poppy red and ink black Derwent Inktense pencils. Now these are a permanent ink when they dry, so I didn't have to worry about going over and sealing this with anything. I put the poppy red along the bottom of the moon. I'm dabbing on puddles of the black, going back in with some more red, but it's really wet. I want it to run. Now I'm going to just pick up my card, tap it a little bit, and let it run down. And as it hits the texture from the different layers, it kind of stops. So I got it started again with my brush. I wanted it to drip right to the bottom of the card. So I've put my own little, I think mine is spookier, on the bottom of that moon. Now for the crow, I just want to ground it so that it's sitting on the ground, and it does have a little tiny touch of black under its feet. I'm going to just extend that along so that it becomes part of the girl. It becomes a a set. The girl and the crow will look like they're supposed to go together. I wanted to blend this moon in just a little bit more, but I didn't want to add too much. So there's barely any ink in this little puddle of water, and I'm just adding a little bit around the edge of the moon. Now, these cards are almost done. I'm adding a little bit more dark to the edge of this. It's kind of a light gray fern, but I just wanted to darken this edge down a little bit, not too much. So I end up adding some of this ink and then tapping it off with a tissue and adding a little bit. And you just play with things until you get them the way you want them to look. So I'm just going to work on all of these cards. So part of what I wanted to add is just grounding underneath the little people, the little children, and grounding the whole card, adding just underneath my images. And I always think your images look a little bit better when they're grounded. A little shading under those pumpkins just finishes them off perfectly. So this moon that I added, the gray of the light gray in the moon, it was blending into the background a little too much for me. And I wanted this moon to be dark and intense, and you can still see, going over it with the Inktense pencil, you can still see those shadows in the moon, those dark spots, but I just darkened it down a lot. I wanted the moon to be more of a image on the front and less background. I'm adding a little shadow down the back side of this girl. I thought it might help her pop a little bit. Sometimes you start doing something and you're not sure if you like it. So that's one of the things that you can do. Just take your tissue if you've got something on there and you're not sure about it and dab it back off. Then I realized that I actually did like it, but maybe not that intense. So I went back and added just a little bit less this time. Yeah, just play with things until you have them the way that you like them. I always say I'm not an artist. I can't draw, I can't paint. I craft. And I just do things until I like the look of them to the best of my ability. And I think that that's all we can expect from ourselves. There was too much white behind the flowers on here. So to get that to blend more in with that background, I just added the lightest little shading of gray over the white so that the flowers weren't as stark. So the cards are basically done. They need a sentiment on each card. So I'm going to cut something out that suits each card. And then I am going to use my archival ink from Rangers. And I'm going to put a nice dark black ink border all around. And that's what I did. So I have my cards done. I didn't show you that part because you guys see that part, the same thing for every single one. So this one says, keep calm and pumpkin on. I kind of like the sentiments I picked. This one is too cute to spook. See the way the background changes? I love that. This one says the most spooktacular night of the year. And then this one says there is magic in the night when pumpkins glow by moonlight. I love the way that they turned out. I love the way that that white metallic ink makes everything look. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know that you're watching. Comment down below. Let me know which card you like the best. And by all means, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I'd absolutely love if you did that. Bye for now.